All right, this meeting and all other meetings of this committee are open to the public. Proper notice has been posted and given to the press of the accordance with Wisconsin statutes of the citizenry. May be aware of the time, place, and agenda of this meeting. Call the meeting to order. Roll call.
Gage,
Here.
Gunderson,
Here.
Nadowski is asked to be excused.
Approve the minutes, May 9th, 2016.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes for May 9th.
I second it.
You still gotta say all in favor.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Citizen appearance. Harder. Fox Valley Garbage Recycling Program.
Yep, so we talked about this last month, but we did invite them to speak before the committee, number one, because it's a new committee, and also because we're a little over a year into the service, and we had mentioned last month that there is a city option to extend it into 2017 for their contract, so at some point we would have to act on that. We have it on the agenda tonight to talk about it. You're not bound to act on it, but what we did want to do though is have Nick and Tim from Harders come and speak before the committee. So,
Hi, my name is Nick. This is Tim, Operations Manager for Harders Disposal. We thank you guys for your business. We haven't had any, none that I'm aware of. I know if there was any issues, you guys keep in close touch with us. Down the road, we did communicate with Patrick as far as increasing the recycling from a once a month to an every other week. And you guys did accept that. We did not raise the cost at all for that extra service. I know Patrick does request numbers all the time, which he does give. I've just been comparing some of the numbers from last March, because we started in March, so we can only go back that far, to present day. And there has been an increase in the recycling numbers for March, April, and as of May, because we don't have the recorded, the last pickup in May would have had 3 pickups for recycling, so that's why it looks a little bit short right now, but there's a whole other pickup that's still missing off of that. So it looks like with the increased recycling pickups, it's showing a marked improvement in the community with the amount that is collected. It's making a pretty good impact.
Which we brought up, based on when we started out, I was out here helping the driver out get accustomed to the community and whatnot, and we noticed the recycling wasn't as prevalent. Now it seems like people are on board with it, which you would expect with more service. People get on board and less trash going out.
Well, it's hard to go for 1 month as it is where I live. I go 1 month, and it's hard, and I don't even have any kids at home yet. So back then, I live in Weyauwega, so I am in the community here. And it makes it hard, so it just makes sense. You offer twice the service, people are recycling more instead of going into the trash. So how do you guys feel about the every other week pickup?
I like it.
Yeah.
The recycling, no, they don't have to sort everything, is it?
No,
That's okay.
No.
Okay, just,
no, it's total commingle.
if it's recyclable, put it all in the same.
That is correct. Cardboard box, newspaper,
Okay.
all the plastics.
The report that Patrick gets, it's got plastic, metal, paper, glass on it.
Okay.
And every one of those numbers, like I said, we can only go back to March to compare, because when we started, it was still once a month.
Yeah.
So I can only go back that far to really compare, and it's already made an impact on the amount that is collected. The one thing that didn't really show too much was, there is a slight difference, a little bit less in the trash, but then you fall into where, you got some months you had 5 pickup, 5 weeks, and so it kind of throws it off. from comparing from last year where maybe that month only had 4 pickups. But there is a little bit of a difference too in the trash, so.
So we get a lot of it's the raw figures, and I don't have that for you to review tonight. But one of the concerns that I have as it relates to recycling is we get a recycling grant from the state, and we end up getting about $3,900 that they fund towards us to help offset the cost of the program. But with that, you have a required minimum per household or per resident that you're supposed to be recycling. And I can tell you that we're pretty thin rate at about the minimum per person. We've talked about that though. I think we've talked about how overall I think we're way under 20% of the material that gets disposed is actually recycling that we're recycling here. And one of the things we were looking at is to go with the every other week. That was about a $4,000 savings when they decided not to charge us for that. But what's encouraging is that the recycling is starting to pick up, because when we're that thin, I mean, we're sort of in danger of losing the state revenue if we're underneath so many pounds per year. But if we're just above that right now and the recycling is going up, that's probably a good sign
Yes.
for us, for sure.
Yeah.
Might not hurt to put that in the newsletter,
Yeah,
an explanation of fundings that's available if you recycle,
yeah.
you know, why it's important.
One of the questions that I had, and I could call and ask you, but I knew you were coming, so I figured I'd ask too, but do you guys have any issues with maybe a driver when it's on a recycling day? If they pull up to a household and they just don't have any recycling out, is it feasible to have them maybe
Make a
start
note.
something of a list or a note where even on our end then we could turn around and, you know, if you get a whole ton of households that it doesn't look like they're recycling, you gotta know that there's at least something they've got and it's probably going out in the garbage.
Well,
You know, other than us ripping open bags and checking everything, you know,
Oh, yeah.
the obvious might be if people just don't have it out.
Could we, to simplify, could we do it by quadrant? Because, you know, I've been talking to the driver prior to this meeting, and he says there's a lot of people that still don't recycle. You know, he says people that are recycling more, but there's still a lot of people that everything's garbage, you know. And so if I could do it by quadrant, that way the driver doesn't slow down
Right.
drastically.
Yeah, that's, I mean, it's extra for them to be doing when we need them to be picking, but.
What would you do anyway? I mean, would you send them a letter then? Is that
Well,
what you're kinda
I
thinking,
think
or-
what we would probably do, and I know it's not always out in the forefront, but we do quite a bit of code enforcement with cutting grass, junk, garbage. I mean, recycling is the law,
Oh, yeah.
essentially, and if they're not putting it out, well, I
You
don't know
might-
that you could tell them to recycle more, but if they're just not throwing anything out,
Oh, yeah. if they're
somehow
absolutely
you'd have
not
to contact them and say, hey, here's the law. And maybe that's the only way you can,
But you'd almost have to
Push it.
track that for a month before you did anything, because you could have some elderly people,
Yeah.
you know, and they might only put it out once a month because
They don't have it.
they really
Right.
don't have any, they're not gonna bother.
And that is true, and
You
that's also common with trash too, with an elderly.
Right.
You know, a person, especially if it's a single elderly person in the house, they might only walk that trash down once a month.
sure.
You know, only because they really don't have much of volume, maybe nor do they really wanna walk it down, you know, so that is very common.
And that's kind of why I ask if there's a good way to do that. You'd have to, I mean, if it's one time, you'd have to somehow track it multiple times.
That is correct, yeah, yeah.
But
You know-
either way, when it's like 15% of all the stuff that goes out is recycling, I think it's pretty realistic that people are throwing away a lot of recyclable material.
Right.
It was evident before when it was once a month.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
Very evident.
Yeah.
you know. But,
okay.
One thing you could do is limit the amount of trash they are able to put out every week as well.
some communities are doing that. Matter of fact, we just started the city of Wausau as of January 1st, which is 18,000 houses picked up every week. And what they did was when they redid the the bidding process and did the contract, they reduced the size of their trash container that they were using to a 65-gallon cart and made the recycling container a 95 to encourage the residents to recycle
Sure.
more. You better believe that phone started ringing immediately,
Oh, sure.
January 1st, because it was a Friday. And, or no, it was a Saturday,
Saturday.
yeah, because it was a holiday. And even before that, when they started delivering the carts, because we, you know, with a community that size, you know, when you purchase 36,000, you know, carts, the manufacturer hires a third party to disperse through a community that size. Because it would be an undertaking we couldn't do as a company. But the phone started ringing right away. How come my trash cart is so small? You know, but again, it's nothing that we had to do, that the community dictates what they want. But that's what they did to encourage all the residents to recycle more, was they gave them a smaller trash container, yeah, and a larger recycle. And that recycling is also every other week.
No, and magically everything works, where the first month it wasn't smooth at all, but
No.
now everybody's on board.
It's never easy to implement change, as you guys know.
No.
You know, as a community. But it's gotten dialed in pretty quick with Wausau, you know, and a lot more people. You know, I didn't know this was recyclable. I never even thought it, you know. And it's just part of, it's a whole learning process, really, you know.
No, it really is, and that's why I was talking about the newsletter and trying to get some awareness out there, because most people, we don't publicize the grant money, so unless they're watching this video, they're not gonna know about it,
Yeah.
you know, and
But we do, in the newsletter though, Harbors provides us information that we get out in the annual
right.
newsletter. So I mean, we get that one time a year, but
Yeah, one time a year, and it talks about what's recycling,
And
what's
what's
not, but
everything
it
else.
doesn't talk about a grant, it doesn't talk about
Right.
monies that the taxpayers could be losing or
Yeah.
things like that.
Well, I think Nick's got a good point.
Would it be better if they had a recycling container? Like you have your own container, garbage in the
That-
recycling center?
That always
you
helps
would have,
too. You know,
Otherwise,
that
the
always
resident
helps.
has to get their own,
Mhm.
Right.
and a lot of them say, I ain't gonna go buy one just for recycling.
No, you know, and you're right, a lot of people say, I'm not gonna go buy another garbage container, you know, or they just use their own little bin or box, regardless if it's once a month or every other week. Once that box is full, we all know where the rest of it ends up,
Yeah.
you know, so that is a good idea, you know, and I know it's something that, you know,
that was one of the options we had when we got the rates
Weyauwega has
back
talked
then.
about.
I know it was a discussion.
It was discussed, but like Nick said, change is hard,
Yeah.
so you gotta take small steps, or people are gonna go off the deep end. I mean,
You know, but it is an option, you know. We've had other communities that were online like you guys, and, you know, halfway down the road, they ended up, we have some used cards, you know, that we had provided to them, and, they used, you know, ended up using them for recycling, so we're able to cut costs too that way. You know, but when you provide them with something,
Yeah, then.
they tend to use it. Yep.
I will have to say, I've only heard good comments. These last few months, I've gone around talking to people over town, and I haven't had any complaints. In fact, one of the things my wife just showed me on Facebook was one of our residents that was very vocal against changing, now has nothing but nice things to say about it, so.
We want to know good and bad. You're our customer, and we don't know, you know, unless you guys tell us. So we want to know, I want to know everything.
Only thing that I heard is a couple of garbage cans were too big, had little tags on them that had to get smaller garbage cans. People that have been using them garbage cans forever,
Sure,
gotta get a new
okay.
garbage can. You know, it's what it is. I
Yeah.
guess. But that way there, if you had your own garbage cans and hand them out to them, then they can't say nothing.
True. True. You know, but again, I know the main thing is in the beginning, you know, a year and a half ago, you know, it was even the talk of going to a container, especially for the trash, you know, and a lot, that reduction alone was enough to push some people over the edge, you know, if you will.
If we can get them recycling, that'll lower everything, and, you know, it's, hopefully we can.
You'd be surprised once you really, start thinking about it and making a conscious effort. You find a lot more recycling than normal. I catch my wife. I pull stuff out of the garbage. Come on, what are you doing here?
I think just one comment I have is when we talked about having an option and a minimum contract with Harders, a lot of the flexibility we had with setting it up the way we did was due to the fact that we didn't go with any bins at all.
Right.
Because one of the comments, and Nick, you'll remember this because you were here, what did we talk about for 6-8 months, I think, on
6
how
months.
to do it,
Yeah.
who to do it, when to do it. I mean, that was quite a discussion. But one thing we talked about was if you went with bins, you could pay $70 to $80 per bin to buy them, or you could rent them. But in exchange for a rental, you would probably be looking at a 4 to 5 year contract so that the vendor could make up
All right.
their costs on those bins. And if we're looking at, I think it's like 600 homes, I think it's actually closer to 640, 650. And if you look at $70, $80 a bin for garbage and recycling, if you want that route, that's a pretty good investment
It is.
anybody's got to make.
True.
So when it comes to this option year that we have for 2017, I think the option is in terms of keeping the process the same. And any discussion on any bins, you may be looking later this year, if you want to investigate that. I don't think we're looking at a 1 year extension. I think you're looking at either a
More
one-time
makeup for the
expense or maybe a longer term contract.
The other thing too is when you do go carded, then it changes the whole dynamic of the route because now it becomes an automated route. Where the driver's not getting out of the truck, picking up all the trash or recycling by hand and loading it all by hand. Where you just drive up, grab it, dump and go. Going carded, you do have the added expense of the cart, but you're gonna save that on the labor,
Sure.
you know.
Yeah. Yeah. I think just oddly, the way the quotes came out this last time was to keep it the way we were going was like $8 per home per month.
Mhm.
And to go fully automated, I think advanced was even in there at $8 per home per month, so you almost took that off the table. Cost on that end. Where we just decided to do it the way we did and we didn't go with bins, but like I said, when you start to look at that option, I think that option would be in terms of keeping the service the same.
Right.
And however you wanna go about that.
I assumed that's what it was. It would be extension of the same contract we have right now for the option year, and then
Yeah.
taking a year and doing a
that's
bunch
where you
more
wanna
trash
go.
talk.
Yeah. Well, that's our motto, is 4 generations talking trash.
There you go.
And like I said, we are, we are a local company. I live right in Weyauwega. I come to a lot of functions in your community. As a matter of fact, our driver lives in your community. The gentleman who picks up your garbage lives here.
Good. Anything else under the comment period?
No, it's,
Other than thank you.
Thank you.
that's the only thing I've been hearing, everything's been going good, but the trash cans are too big, They had to get different trash cans. The old people that got them, they got their one minded,
Yeah.
so. Oh, it is. Then I had the other one say about having their own bins, like
Mhm.
furniture bins. And I guess that would be easier, or they ain't gotta go down and buy some, Maybe they would end up recycling better, I don't know. Guess we'll carry that on later on. Right,
Okay.
okay. Engineer report.
Wastewater treatment plant update. Pay request number 12 is in front of you, as well as the cover sheet for change order number 4. Change order number 4 is part of pay request number 12. So if you would like, I can go through the work change directives that have been reviewed and approved with with Patrick and Don, and it's all part of part of the pay request.
The one thing, and like I said before the meeting, without having this formally on the agenda, you have it for consideration because this amount is in the pay request amount. So by recommending approval of the pay request, essentially you'd be recommending approval of the change order. But if it's okay by the committee, what we may do is just go through it and then probably put it on the council agenda without a recommendation, if that's okay.
That's fine.
It's up to you guys. And then just a quick note would be that it has been approved for the work to proceed because it was underneath the change order guidelines. I think you had set the amount of $10,000 or less. And as you look down the list, you'll see the high end, you know, is in the $2,000 range. So just so you know, it's, my signature's on it. That's because we did proceed to go ahead. But as your formal review in paying the bill, then that's what your review would be that Dan can run through. Okay?
Okay.
Okay, on work change directive number 23, in structure 40, there was an air compressor included in the bid, and as the bid was, or as they brought the compressor in, they upgraded the compressor to have a motor starter on it in lieu of the one that was originally bid in the project. So you got credit for the motor, the air compressor that was provided in the contract documents, and there was a change made to add a motor starter on that air compressor. Work change directive number 24 was in structure 12, which is the new building. They had some of the equipment laid out in there, and as they started installing all the electrical equipment and other equipment, piping and so forth, there was a reconfiguration of the water tank in that area. So there was a pad already poured in there for the water tank, but it was too close to a couple of the other components, and there was some conflicts. So they readjusted and reconfigured the where the water heater went, or the water tank went, and it included reconfiguring the area to fit that water tank in that one vicinity. Work change directive number 25, the storm sewer catch basin, the curb and gutter was the multiple type curb and gutter, and the catch basin casting that was delivered and included was the one with the curb back on it. So in order to fit the valley type curb, the multiple curb and stuff, they changed it out. You got credit for the one that they had in the original, and then they brought the correct frame that needed to be included with the type of curb that was out there.
Yeah, well, this is pan curve, ain't it?
Yes, both sides. Work change directive number 26 in structure 30. This was a bypass slide gate that was installed. This is part of an original change order that when we did not have a bypass in there, we just had a direct discharge through the chlorine tank. And it came, as the contractor was in there doing some of the work, the question came up, okay, if the UV system is taken out of operation, how do you bypass the system? And they came in with a change order to do the work. That was approved. They started doing the work, and as part of that design, they looked at reusing some of the gates that were in there. And when they got further into reusing the gates were in poor condition, so they had to replace those gates, correct, Don? So they had to change out and do a little bit. We felt that we could reuse the gates, but the condition of them as they got into them were not reusable. So they had to pour another concrete wall in there and do a little different configuration inside. Work change directive 27 is again structure 12. Again, when they started laying out all the electrical equipment and the piping and everything that was in there, they had some reconfigurations of putting different components in different places. So they mounted that one on the wall. So that one was just a reconfiguration of the equipment inside once they got the actual everything laid out and the piping completed. Work change directive 28, that was included with the additional wall for the bypass with the gates that were changed. That was the same additional wall that had to be included in order to utilize, or not utilize, but put in new gates.
This is the same one with,
But this is the concrete portion of it that goes with 26. We're changed directive 29. This was a request in our abandonment section. We had a lot of the stuff at the treatment plant was abandoned, removed and so forth. And there was some flow monitoring equipment that we had to remove that it wasn't that it had to be removed in entirety to operate the treatment plant. However, for simplicity and getting rid of the old stuff in there, Don had asked that the portion of this be pulled out and removed totally and remove it out of the operations of the system at that point in time. Work change directive 30. This has to do with the old clarifier, that was utilized for sludge storage now, or not sludge storage, septic receiving. There was a hollow waste line when the lines were coming into the clarifier at the time of design. This was the very last thing we did in the project. The elevations in the field and the elevations that were on the record drawings from when the structure was constructed were not the same. So when they drew all the water down to check all those, we had to re-core a new hole into the clarifier to make the hydraulics of the whole system work. So that was a change there. And this was a core. The cost was a little bit more because the thickness of the walls increases in the area we were versus in the other area that we originally started at. Work changes directive 31, that's a bolt template change for the clarifier mast arm in the pier. The contractor proposed, or the equipment supplier proposed a bolt pattern, and due to the cost of that bolt pattern, the mechanical contractors came back with that they could fabricate a bolt pattern themselves that would work just as good for much less. So we went with the one from JFA Hearn, what they proposed to do. Work changes directive 32, sludge storage tank removal. There was a sludge storage tank that in the original plans we were doing some work in that area, but we were not touching it, so we determined to leave it in place during the design phase. As they got into construction, and Don had taken a look at it, and he had asked that sludge storage tank be removed and abandoned and taken totally out of the area and backfilled with on-site material, so that structure is no longer there. That was removed out of the system because it was no longer needed. On work change directive 33, for structure 23 being the old clarifier, that's the one that we turned into a septic receiving station. When we originally had set the 4-inch precast, would go across, set in the channels and go across the top of the tank to cover it. There was the ledge that it was sitting on was deeper than was anticipated, so we had two options. One option was to pour a lightweight concrete over the whole top and to where it drains and all the water runs off. The other option was to set it in there and pour it as we originally designed, but then to periodically cut holes through the clarifier wall to drain the material out, or drain the runoff out. So at that point in time, during the construction meetings, the city staff and Cedar Corp and the contractor selected to go. It's more cost effective to pour a lightweight concrete over the top and fill that whole thing in, so it's all uniform, flatter on the top, and everything drains off. So those are the work change directives that were reviewed and approved during construction meetings over the last month and a half.
So that total then on those 11 items, it's $14,410.27. And as the pay request appears before you, that amount is in there. And the pay request, number 12, would be $117,579.04.
That's still, as we've talked at other meetings, that's about 1.6% of the construction costs as
All
far
the
as
changes?
changes. So we're well within the unknowns that came up with an existing treatment
I gotta make a motion for pay request of $117,579.04.
And then the contingency we would ask for again is contingent on lien waivers.
Any waivers, yes, sir.
Essentially, lien waivers.
The motion,
Or I'll second it.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried.
And how are you gonna deal with the change order through,
I think what we'll do is, so, I mean, essentially you're approving the change order amount. What I'll probably do is, since we ran through it here, I'll just put it on the agenda for the council, if that's okay?
Yeah.
And then I'll just make a note that, again, I didn't have it on the agenda, but in a way we went through it here. We'll still get it acted upon next week, if that's okay?
Yeah.
Good, thank you.
okay, item B is the, municipal building parking lot, contract A16. We are in for pay request number 1, in the amount listed of $155,654.68 to Vinton Construction. As part of change order, or pay request number 1, we also have a change order number 1. Change order number 1, I will walk through that one with you also. This is the first change order. There was additional concrete curb and gutter over what we had anticipated along Alfred Street. There was the 2 areas where the sanitary or storm sewer came in from the building contractor, and they had just asphalted it. And in lieu of having them come in and patch a piece, and then our contractor come in and then have to adjust their work to fit the opening we wanted, the building contractor gave us a credit for the curb that he didn't have to put in. And then we used that to pay for portions of the curb that we were widening the entrances. There was also a section in there of curb and gutter that was about mid-block that was busted, the back was busted off about 5 or 6 feet. That happened through the winter. We're not totally sure if that happened with Fox Brothers plowing the parking lot, or if it was the forklifts of the mason picking up his block. But at the point in time, the concrete was busted. We wanted to make sure we cleaned everything up at once, so we took care of that. Just as we are in discussions with the contractor on that one, but they are pushing back, saying they didn't do it.
The build, Immel, you're talking about
Yes.
the Immel, yeah.
City Hall contractor. So that's the work that we had there. The cost on that was just a little bit more than what was bid on the form work, because that was all handwork, the short pieces. The item number 2 was excavation below subgrade. As we've always done, we have a cost in there to excavate below subgrade. In the parking lot, there were some soft areas as they were running their equipment through it. We identified those soft areas, we excavated them, removed them, and just beefed it up with additional stone. We did not chase it. It was about, I think we took out a foot in a couple areas. I think there was 3 areas that we measured the length times width and took those out. So now, and then after we replaced all that base and rolled everything, we tire rolled the parking lot again, where everything held up and didn't yield. So the areas were yielding when we were going through it with the trucks, so that's when we determined we needed to take it out. So we took Patrick out there and showed him the areas and confirmed that work needed to be completed. So there was 36 yards. This includes removal of the equipment, or removal of the poor soils, and also bringing in additional crushed aggregate base course. Item number 3 is the existing subgrade on the north. There was 3 buildings, 101 South Pine, 131 East Main Street, and 129 East Main Street. All property owners requested additional work in their back parking lot. We did get costs for that, but those were alternate bid items. Now what we did is we're working them into a change order. All property owners are being billed for this cost, and they've all agreed to pay it. So it's all, the cost that you see for this one, as well as the next one, and the third one, or those 2 right there is the work that was done additionally on those areas. The West Main Street sidewalk, as we got out there, Started constructing the wall. The property owner asked, in lieu of going further back into their property and removing the material, that they would like to see a minimal work, so we had the contractor add one more block. Just there was one tier on the right-hand side just for coming out of the walk, and then around the corner one time, and then the next one was to come out and go about, I think, halfway down, or 2/3 of the way down, and then end, and then it just tapered to fit the ground. We had anticipated when we designed it that it would, in our mind, it would be smoother to go back further and slope the land in, but they had a different idea when they were doing it. So contractor did that work to add one more modular block wall along the top edge for the work. The item C, Schedule C, West Main Street manhole adjustments. There were 2 other manholes that were marginal on West Main Street. In talking with Public Works staff, and Don went out and looked at them with us. For the cost that the contractor was quoting $750 a ton, or a ton each, to remove them, replace the rings, and put asphalt back. We felt it was cost effective to do those other 2. Then we're done with all that. We did check with the DOT. One of them was a storm sewer, and per your state municipal agreement with the DOT, maintenance of the manholes is a city responsibility. So the other one was the sanitary. So we took care of that. Just as a FYI for you, the contractor is coming back in and redoing each of those manhole asphalt paving, because the work done on there was not to our liking. So he's coming in and either taking them out or heating it up and adding a little bit of material to it to get them out.
You dip down a little bit when you go over them. They're gonna add in some material in there.
So they're gonna do all that at their cost, and then that contract will be closed and done. There were a couple of, the only thing we have left on the contract is the electric was just finished last week. That was not included in the pay request because they weren't done in time. But we're anticipating in the
That was a good 3-4 weeks ahead of when they figured it would be in though, so.
typically their light poles are about a 6 to 8 week delivery. So they got them in early, quick, and then put them up, put the electric in. I just have to check out if they're completed with the electric, because there was some issues with the electric eyes. However, the next month, the pay request, close that information, everything will be done on that job. Contract times, we did extend the contract times a little bit on these, on a couple of them, because there was some times that they wanted to come in and do some work, and their time frame would have elapsed through the weekend, so we worked with them to work through the weekend just to get them in here to do the work and get out of here. So that's what we did here, is we listed what the final and substantial agreed to contract times are for all the work they completed. So if there's any other questions, I can answer them. However, the pay request is up, and as you'll see, the only thing we have left are the lights to pay for. But we are running right at budget, right around there. So once we get the quantities for the lights and the footage of conduit that was put in.
Yeah, I was talking to Nick before about these pay requests, about that curb and gutter stuff, when they bid that jobs, they're supposed to look at that stuff all gonna be happening. Now different, like the cooks down there, they didn't realize that, what's going on, and so we did that, so now the pay request, we should pay for that. But these other ones, that should all be in the bid.
Curb and gutter,
The curb and gutter.
On the road?
Right.
the thing there was the bid went out without the curb and gutter in there simply because at that point in time, Immel was gonna do the work. Immel was gonna do the work, and then we determined it would be a better product if our contractor did it, and our contractor took responsibility for replacing those curbs. And that's why we got the credit from Immel to pay for the curb and gutter. Otherwise it would have been in the bid right out of the chute.
Right.
But see what happened on the north the north entrance, we widened out the entrance from what was there originally. So if Immel would have replaced the curb back to where it was, we would have had to go out and take a portion of that curb out in order to get as wide as we needed.
So we just made it wider after everything was.
Yes.
Okay.
And that's why we felt it was more cost effective to take it out of Ammo's contract
Right.
and have our guys do it when they're in there doing work.
There always ends up being some fine tuning,
Yeah, a little bit,
tweaking of stuff.
but,
Well, you've got two different contractors working, you know, we talked about before of putting all that site work into the city hall contract. But at the point in time, we weren't locked into what we were doing. We were still evolving on how we wanted the parking lot to look.
I can see it, if we made it bigger and it was smaller before, well, that's something we went and did.
That would have been,
Before
it,
the
yes.
contract, yeah.
And you would have paid for it in the city hall contract, and you would have paid to take it out in the contract we just did and put it back in the contract we just did.
Alright. We are on,
So he ran through the change order. The change order you wanna act on first,
okay,
and then the pay request includes, if you approve the change order, that's right into the pay request. If you don't,
okay, make a motion for the pay change order, number one, $7,765 from Benton Construction.
I'll second it.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
Now with the pay request on this one, seeing this is the first pay request,
Okay,
they do not submit lien waivers until the next pay request.
yeah, because there is
So this
no,
one won't be.
the lien waiver is to make sure they paid from the
Right,
last pay,
right.
but because it's the first check, they don't.
yeah,
So you won't need that contingency. And, right.
okay, so that's,
So this one, you could just do a straight recommendation on the pay request, approval or not.
okay. A recommendation for the pay request,
Is that a motion?
and a motion,
Okay, well, I'll second that then.
all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Thank you.
Okay, wastewater treatment plant, City Hall, certificate survey map update.
The wastewater treatment plant CSM is still on hold. We're waiting Weyauwega's to finalize their recorded documents for their service going into the treatment plant. Otherwise, we have to include that in the CSM, which is certified survey map, combining all those properties. We're waiting on Weyauwega's, and Patrick's been in contact with them. As he had mentioned last meeting, they had easements throughout the city when they did all the work, they just haven't gotten more recorded. And they're just trying to expedite that one so we can get the CSM done. And this CSM again is combining all the lots the city owns with the treatment plant and then splitting it into two. One on the north portion, and then the rest is all the city's operations. City Hall's CSM, we have done the field work, and we're in the process of securing or starting the work on the actual land surveying of the descriptions. Okay.
That's update only then? Just an update, there's no action
Right,
required on
right.
that?
Okay, we did the decision on the residential garbage recyclables.
You did the discussion
Did
on
that
it.
discussion already?
Yeah, so you had, technically the way it goes is Harder's appears as like a citizen appearance for comment. We have had this topic on the agenda because at some point the city council is gonna have to decide, are you looking to exercise the option for 2017 or do you wanna change the service? If you change the service, your quotes you had back a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, probably aren't gonna be any good, so. At some point, and it doesn't have to be tonight, but if you're looking at exercising the option, well, that you can do pretty straightforward, but if you want to look at getting quotes or changing the service, more notice is better on that, because right now you have to make a decision by the end of the year on what you're doing for 2017 regardless.
Well, our policies every 3 years to bid out. Right, that the city
Yeah.
policy is 3 years. So I would like to make a motion to extend the current one for 2017, so that we can start looking at deciding what we want for 2018.
Well, if everything stays the same, like if you open it up right now, someone else is gonna come in there, might have higher bids, like you said. So, as long as he's locked in right now,
Well, as long as it took us last time,
2017.
we should start early.
just leave it till then.
Alright.
Took a while last time. But you're right, you have some cost control because the contract allows for like a CPI increase no greater than 3%.
Right.
I mean, you have an idea.
So,
What would be-
I'd like to make a motion to extend our contract with Harders of Fox Valley for the 2017 option year.
It's all second, huh? I like to do a lot of stuff local, but like you say, we're guaranteed to stay under your contract now, 2017, so I'll second that. All in favor? Aye.
Alright?
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you.
Okay, update on the park, Emerald Street parking lot.
Yep, so Don, Thad, and myself met tonight just to review the CIP going forward, and one of the items that we've got out there is the park and the parking lot. Thanks, guys.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your business.
And in the course of doing that, we were reviewing parking improvements up at the park, and what we had slated for 2016 was like $15,000. Now, we're not paving up there, but we were able to get some gravel base course, and it's supposed to cost us no more than $9,500, so we're saving some money there, accomplishing, it's a solution for parking problems up that way. They did just get that completed last week, and I talked to the mayor, he'd been up there to take a look at it. If you guys are able to take a look.
I looked at it.
We've got it, the one challenge we may have up there is because it's a gravel base, you can't really go paint the gravel, and so just trying to direct people in, basically what you can do is you can drive it in and just park. One thing we did look at doing, which I didn't check on, was we've got the tan dump truck up in the park, and so rather than park it by the baseball field, we had asked Andy to park it
Yeah.
so that people can see that it's parked there, and then it's also opens up a spot close to the baseball field. That's a dump truck that I don't know we're gonna keep very long, so it's not.
So you're trying to
Parking
get
there is
people
not a
to
good
park
thing.
in an orderly fashion?
Yeah, and without, I mean, there's things you could probably do there, put things there, railroad ties, concrete bumpers, whatever it would be. but
What
it's
about
just
barrels and rope and flag?
We could,
Put
I
a
don't know
barrel
how
on
great,
each
I don't know
side.
how good that's gonna look, but,
Well, until
really-
you do something else, I mean,
right.
paint the barrels, you can do anything you want to them.
So that's one of the things we'll have to look at yet. But other than that, I mean, Fox got in. They've gotten everything done, and like I said, it's a little cheaper than what we thought. Should solve some of the problem. The only thing that we'll still have, which we talked about in the CIP discussion, was we're gonna have to do something about that road. Cause Emerald is one lane and it's washing out. And what we did get was we had reclaimed some millings from the parking lot back here to bring them up there. And when Fox was up in the neighborhood, rather than throw in something that's gonna wash out again on Emerald, they did throw some of that in.
That'll
And when
work
talking to Bruce, Bruce had mentioned that that's something that's gonna stay a lot better
a
too.
lot better.
Can we
So
make
it's-
Emerald one way? Coming down?
Sure, we probably, going up or coming down either
Going
way.
down so that you'd come, what is,
We'd have to figure out how you
I
can
think
do
I would
that.
do it the other way. You know, have it on the other end, take the stop sign out there, it says do not enter.
Yeah,
And, cause it's wider to get out the other way. And just go out that way.
the other thing we'd have to look at too is some kind of signage, because it doesn't connect to the park at all. I mean, you
Mhm.
could see it, and by the time you would get all the way into the park in the baseball field, by the
Yeah.
time you'd realize there is no parking, somehow, you know, if we had some signage that said, you know, local people will know where to go. But, and you may get a lot of people, if they go up to the park enough, they'll know that parking anywhere by the ball field is subject to foul balls, and,
yep,
you know, if you park over in this other area, if you just knew about it, you'd never get your car hit probably, unless really had a big slugger up there. But I retired, so.
oh, that's it, gotcha.
No. But no, that's, we do have a couple issues up there, but at least we got rid of those trees, we didn't have to pay for them, we got
Yeah.
paid. We don't have to spend $2,000 a year spraying and cutting weeds, which is a good thing, and it just looks a lot better too.
It does.
So,
I see Nolenberg's put little markers up to stay out their lawn,
yeah,
you
which
know,
is,
so you're gonna have that, people coming out there.
Mhm.
I think that was the dump trucks getting in there, you know,
Oh,
hard to get
sure.
out of there, those rocks there,
Mhm.
so. But
Yeah,
I think now you'd be fine with that, you
sure, sure. It's just an update for right now,
know.
that
Right,
for the most part, we're on track and it's costing less than what we thought, so that's good.
administrators, operators, and surveyor report.
We are getting to the end of our construction projects, which is a good thing. But I can tell you that a lot of the items that were set aside very early with both projects, City Hall is one of them, I'll just bring it up here because we don't have finance tonight, but a lot of items that got set to the side for later, it's later now, and so we're still, you know, it feels like we're done with the building, we're not done being tied up with the buildings. But we're getting to the end on that. We're gonna talk, I've got a closed session item to talk a little bit about staffing. There's a couple staffing issues that we have to talk about. And compensation for staffing, for seasonal staff is one item that we'll wanna talk about. I don't know if that's an issue, but it's something to talk about. But we do have, Andy Bork is our summer employee up at the park.
So Andy is okay.
Yep, he's been going pretty good. Even today during the rain, we were able to put him to work. We had him put sliders on the chairs for the community room, so that worked out pretty good. And then we are looking at some better ways to handle the yard waste site and trying to weatherproof that with people driving in to dump off. And that's including taking a look at the property that we own just to the east of Tower Drive, so behind Cherney.
Okay, yeah.
I don't know that we own it. I know we own it. We also sold for like $100 a right of first refusal to Cherney. And so I don't have a problem in open session saying that I doubt that we would ever be able to sell that to anybody but Cherney. Because the way that that would get triggered is we would actually have to sell it to somebody or have an offer in hand, which means we get pretty far down the line in talking about a development with somebody. And at that point, when they make an offer to buy it, Cherney has the right to match it, which is a good thing. But if we got that far with a developer and then it was sort of swept off the table because of this right of first refusal, I'm assuming that that developer is probably not going to be interested in dealing with us anymore. But that being said, it's 3 acres of land that's right across the street from the yard waste site. And after dealing with it for about 3 years, 3.5 years, it would be lazy, but it'd be very nice to start over there on the yard waste site. But I don't know that we could do that, but maybe what we could do is look at ways to get a better area that the public is entering, so it's not mud or slop. And then with that, if we can move the public area out of the fenced in area, we'll have that much more room that we could do our turning and sorting.
Yeah,
So that's just something that we're looking at, and as part of that, I did contact Eric Peters because they farm over there. And what I told him was we may start talking about it, so instead of hearing it in the paper or whatever, that at least they heard from us. But it's not something we're gonna get done this year, it's just something I think we'll have to take a look at.
Yep.
Camera angles, we're moving around the camera a little bit, trying to get a good angle on good photography. We don't have it installed right now because we have a metal theft-proof box that's on order, so that we can build it into the fence post so that nobody walks off with it. But starting over across the street might just help because you can try to get a better angle there. Right now, you almost have to try to get people to turn as they come in,
Yep.
so that you can catch either their front of their car or the back of their car and what they're hauling. But when we have a tight area and it's all muddy in there, people come in, they'll go where they wanna go, and
yeah.
there's some challenges there. We'll still get the camera installed and it'll still work, but it's gonna be a little bit of a challenge there.
Yeah,
So that's one thing that we will look at, and that's something that we used to have a standing item on the yard waste site. I think we may put that back on the agenda so that there's just an item there and some of the things they've talked about will have some actual recommendations and maybe
Yeah.
some cost estimates too on what it'll look like.
So what you're saying, you don't want us to go in off a Slough Road no more, be going off a tower.
Well, there's a couple issues. One is, it's always swampy in the spring, and so
Mhm.
people can get their yard done in April,
Yep.
but we can't guarantee that it's not a bog
Right.
until April or so, like in March. And so part of that reason is we don't really know what's underneath that, except 3-4 feet of something in almost every area.
Yeah.
And it's always wet. We've looked at bulldozing it, pushing it to the side, and really what you end up doing is just pushing it to the side, and then it turns to slop again.
I think that's all clay over there, it's, you're always gonna have.
And a lot of stuff. There's a lot of stuff, but if we went across the street, you could probably start over with like a gravel pathway,
Mm-hmm.
Right.
have
Right.
more space. And it's something that, if we made some minor adjustments with yard waste, if Turney was gonna expand, we're not sticking a lot of money into something that they could just wipe
Yeah.
off and expand anyway, so. Just wanted to bring that up. Other than that, the street sweeper did get done last
Saw
week,
that.
You did, huh?
so.
Finally.
He did. Yeah. That's been complete.
We'll come back in fall, couple weeks.
Right.
It's set July Public Works meeting.
You got anything to add, Don? Sorry.
Oh,
Not Donnie
it's
to-
done?
Not too much, like Pat said, things are starting to wind down on our construction sites. One thing at the treatment plant, we are, starting, is our aeration basin project you guys approved last year for replacing the diffusers and the drop legs and the gates and valves. That's gonna start, we'll be starting this week. Crane Engineering will be in Thursday, Friday to get the first 2 tanks done, and then in 2 weeks they'll be here to get 3 more tanks done, and 2 weeks after that they'll get the last 3 tanks done. So that project is underway. Otherwise, we're trying to keep up and get going on our summer stuff, turning valves, jetting sewers. So
I suppose with all this water coming down,
water
grass
doesn't
ain't
help
growing
us.
very good down there, is it?
Well, yeah.
Washing out a lot?
Yeah, we a lot of the grass seed went down
Yeah.
the storm drain this morning and over the weekend. So a lot of hay is in the storm drain and
Yeah.
probably down the river. So, but yeah, no, yeah, the water didn't help us.
No.
But yeah, that's where we're at right now. If you guys have any questions, feel free.
Thanks.
It kinda helped out with that tour I had, I can understand what that was
Yeah.
saying now,
Yeah,
It's-
yeah, and like I said, I don't have a problem if you guys, anybody needs to come
Yeah.
down and take a tour and see what we're doing and what we got. See the new stuff, see the old stuff and how it's all together. You're more than welcome to come down.
Yeah, the only other note we do have is July 9th is probably gonna come before this next committee meeting, and that's the day we set aside for the city hall open house from 10
Yeah.
till roughly noon.
Yeah.
And then we also wanted to have an open house component at the treatment plant then too. 10:30 to 1 or however that would go, but we'd probably have an opportunity to tour it that Saturday. And then if we had to have the committee go down and take a tour too. We actually may still have a committee tour that Monday night, the 11th. If that's the way we wanna keep, the meeting schedule,
Yeah.
because there's a couple technical things that I think we'll wanna review in July with the press, building the rotary press for the sludge. So,
Okay, set July Public Works meeting, date and time.
The 11th.
and then stay 6:30 yet?
6:30 was fine, yeah.
Okay.
Such other matters, authority by law.
I do not have any.
Nope.
Closed session.
Can I read that?
I can read it if you need me to.
No, you're better reader than me.
So we got 2 closed sessions. The first one will be Closed session pursuant to state statute 19.85 sub 1 sub C. Consideration of employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation of any city employee who is subject to the jurisdiction or authority of the council. The reason for the closed session is to discuss / review department and staffing goals. The council may choose to reconvene an open session at the completion of the closed session in order to take action on items from the closed session. Second one then is closed session pursuant to 1985 1E, deliberation of or negotiation for the purchase of public properties, the investment of public funds, or the conduct of other specific public business whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session. The reason for the closed session is to discuss negotiations related to wastewater industrial service agreements. The committee may choose to reconvene an open session at the completion of the closed session in order to take action on items from the closed session. And I do not believe that we will come back to open session.
Okay,
That doesn't preclude us from doing so though, but
I'll make a motion to go in closed session.
I'll second.
and we will do a roll call vote. Gage,
Aye.
Gunderson,
Aye.